Hi guys, I'm Marina Amdream with Arkansas Amdream. Thank you so much for watching. Today I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas with a very special guest, Mr. Daniel Whitfield, who is a candidate, you guys, for United States Senate. It's like a big deal. You're one of the most important people I've ever interviewed, so thank you so much for being with us.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and so you come from North Arkansas, correct?
Yes, we're actually from Northwest Arkansas up in Bella Vista.
Yeah, I love that. And you said that this city is famous for being like a retirement community?
Yeah, it's the #3 retirement community in the country, actually, for several years on Forbes. It's a beautiful place, and everyone's really friendly. I love it up there.
Yeah, it must be very nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We want to ask you, why to run? Like, it's I don't know how you do this. The whole state. When did you sleep?
Oh, so whenever I can. The reason I'm running is because it's so important that we have representatives that actually represent us and that can empathize with the struggles that we're going through as Arkansans. And that's really what I want to bring to the people is that empathy and, in order to give them that voice and that representation in the legislative process.
Yeah, and what do you do? Why do you think you qualify to be in this position? Because I assume it requires not a lot of sleep, a lot of research, a lot of networking, and just being a people's person. So, have you been always in public service? Like, what do you do?
Actually, I had never even considered public service up until a few years ago. When I woke up to the corruption in our government, what was going on, and I really felt that I had to do something about it. I felt that if we can't get representatives that care about us, then we're going to continue going down the path we are now, which, as Arkansas, we're the 49th lowest income state in America, and we pay the 3rd highest taxes. And it makes no sense. And, you start to look at our representatives that we have and where their money's coming from, and then you can start to understand why they're voting against our needs and what we want them to do. So I'm really trying to do the opposite, where I can be that voice of the people and actually start to help make Arkansas better. I want to make us from the 49th worst economy to a top 5 economy. And there are a lot of ways we can do it. And, I've got vision and I've got a path set forward for us. And if we can get on this path, we can really make this a great state, a great place to raise our children.
Awesome. And I've learned that you have an engineering degree, and I've learned that you're very active in the charity world. What causes are you the most passionate about?
So I'm working on my engineering degree right now, and there's so many important causes. It's so hard to keep track, but what's really, really important for me right now is anti-war. We really need to stop this warmongering mentality where we're sending our brothers and our sisters and our families overseas for these foreign oil wars. The military industrial complex, guess how much money we spend per day for our military? Just guess. Throw out a number.
I don't know, $1 billion, I don't know.
That's pretty close. So we spend roughly $3.4 billion per day on the war.
Oh my goodness, and what are we accomplishing? Forgive my ignorance, I don't see a lot of accomplishments. I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, it's exactly right. What are we accomplishing? That's the question. A majority of that money goes to defense contractors. It's not going to our soldiers. It's not going towards supplies and things we need. It goes to the contractors. And most of these contracting companies are actually businesses that are owned by ex-legislators. So we have the people that are voting to send us to war that are actually profiting and funneling all of our tax money into their own pockets. And that's what's really important to me. So I do go to the anti-war protests whenever I can. It's really important. I have a lot of military in my family. A lot of my family's been wounded at war, and we get to the point where it's like, when are we going to say enough's enough? When are we going to stop sending our family members to go fight wars in the Middle East, to go stand by, especially with what's going on right now? It's more important than ever that we're not standing by. But yeah,
I understand. And so I've heard that you support Moms Demand Action.
Yeah.
So are you willing to do anything about the gun laws? Because don't get me started about what's going on with the shootings around.
Oh man.
And so are you passionate about it? And do you think there is something that we can do with gun laws?
So I support comprehensive gun legislation. I am pro Second Amendment. I don't think we should be disarming citizens, but there are a lot of changes that we need to do that will put guns in the right hands, per se. So when I attend Moms Demand Action rallies, the first thing that you really start to notice is a lot of these ladies, they all own firearms. They're not anti-Second Amendment. They just want common sense gun laws. For example, H.R. 8, that is a piece of legislation that I support, which is basically requiring anyone to have a background check when they purchase a firearm. So right now, if you were to go to, say, Walmart and buy 10 firearms, you could actually go set up a stall at a gun shop, and you'll have done your background check at Walmart purchasing firearms. But now you can sell those 10 weapons to 10 separate people, and they don't have to do a background check. So, and that's a really big problem, because you can make a legal sale to someone because you don't have to perform a background check, not knowing that that person is a felon and can't purchase a weapon legally, and now you've done an illegal transaction, not knowing. And there's some really common sense gun things like that I do support. But yeah, I'm not like Beto, where he's like, we're going to go door to door and take people's guns. I think that's a terrible idea.
What I'm passionate about, since I'm an immigrant, legal, everybody, is there anything we can do with our immigration system, in your opinion? Because I'm legal, but from my experience, it's a long process. It's a very long process to get here. It's like steps after steps after steps. And so, do you think we have an immigration system that might need improvement?
Most definitely.
Or you think it's okay?
We need to overhaul our entire immigration system. A lot of people have never experienced what it's actually like to go through the process, so they don't really know. My wife, she's an immigrant from the Philippines. She came here when she was 26 years old. And we've been through the process, so I do understand. What a lot of people don't even know right now is we're actually closing the USCIS offices inside our embassies overseas. So we're actually denying people the ability to apply for a visa to even come here. Why do people migrate here illegally? It's because we don't give them a legal path towards migration. And especially with the border wall and all the asylum seekers who had come up here looking for asylum, they made a big deal out of people coming here illegally. But the thing is they closed all these immigration ports down, so they had no choice. They're fleeing violence from destabilized governments that our government largely is responsible for, coming here looking for safety, and then we turned them away. We shut down the legal means for migration for them and said, you can't come here. And then, of course, what are they going to do? Travel back home into that violence area? They're going to find a way here. And we really need to focus on the important parts of immigration. The border wall is a huge waste of money. All that $25 billion is going to go into contractors' pockets. Personal friends of Trump probably worked on Mar-a-Lago or something like that. But what we need to do is focus on the main issues of our immigration system. Most of our illegal immigrants they came here legally on visas and overstay their visas. And we really need to focus on that if we're going to focus on illegal immigration. And then people talk about the border wall for the drugs and all that silly stuff, where 90% of all drugs that come across the border legally come through legal ports of entry. They are just literally doesn't cross the border. They're in their car driving across the border like a normal person would, and that's where the majority of the drugs get through. So maybe we can bring some of our troops home, focus them to sit on the border at these legal points of entry, and do better drug checks that way, and we can stop a lot of the illegal drugs from coming through. And these are all short-term problems, because right now Canada has already legalized marijuana. Mexico I think they're really close to finalizing their legalization of marijuana, and now we're going to be the only country that has illegal marijuana. So, are they really going to keep risking their lives to bring all these drugs when they're not going to be making as much money as they were before? And we're getting to the point now where we're going to be legalizing it. And as these drugs become legal, it's a lot less motivation for cartels to be moving them illegally, because there's not as much money involved. The risk is outweighs the financial gain. So those are all short-term problems people can focus on. But in the long run, we need to focus on overstaying visas and strengthening the border that we currently have.
Wow. Well, if there is anything you could do to improve immigration, that would be awesome. It just comes from my heart.
Yeah.
This is the subject that I'm very, very aware of. Coming here legally, everybody.
And it's so hard also because what people don't realize is how expensive it is to migrate. You know, I mean, we paid over $5,000 for my wife's 10-year resident card. It's very expensive. So a lot of people who might be out of status or here illegally, they may, you know, they want to be contributing members to society. They are already, and they want to get their legal status, but a lot of them can't afford to. You know, it's such an expensive process, and it's very time-consuming. And a lot of times people are scared because they don't want to, you know, they want to do it the right way, even if they have had a way to save that money. They want to get their resident card, but then they're scared, well, what if I go and give them my money and file, and then they're like, oh, well, now we have you on record and we're going to deport you. So we need to make sure that, you know, as long as people are continuing the process and doing things the right way, that they have protections from deportation. You know, our country, we're a melting pot of culture, of ethnicity, of religion. We have such a great diversity that we need to be accepting towards all people. You know, we really have to be. And we're getting there, you know. I really have faith in my daughter's generation that a lot of the hatred that we're feeling around the country right now will be gone. You know, hatred, it's something that's, you know, it's taught, it's not inherent. You know, these young children, they don't understand race issues, they don't understand religious diversity. You know, they want to be friends, you know, they just want fun. And we really need to look at children, you know, take a note from their love and compassion towards each other and try to have that towards each other as adults. If kids can do it, I mean, we can have compassion.
I love it. I love this idea. Thank you so much for being so kind when it comes to immigration and diversity. Now, talking about family, so you have a family. We can actually gonna have a very quick visitor. You wanna say hello to us? Tell me more about your family.
So my wife, she's an accountant.
You go. Yeah, she's an accountant. That's the baby. What's the name?
This is my daughter, Caitlin.
Hi.
She's 6 years old, and she actually is in first grade now. She's doing really good in school, and oh man, she loves playing on her iPad. I guess that's the new generational thing, is their tablets.
So you're very active with supporting the youth and their education and their opportunities? Most
definitely. You know, when I was speaking with the head of the Rural Teacher Association, we were trying to figure out how we can better the education in Arkansas. Because Arkansas, it's really unique in the way where there are areas of Arkansas where we have the top schools in the nation. And then there are other parts in Arkansas where we have the lowest graded schools in the nation. So we really need to figure out how we can spread the education around. So the way it works right now is we pay our taxes, and for your school district and your zip code, those educational taxes go towards those schools, which is great where our economy is really good, you know, especially like Northwest Arkansas and Little Rock. The schools get the funding they need. But then we have, you know, schools in South Arkansas, down, you know, in the bayou. We have, you know, Northeast Arkansas, and all these other areas of Arkansas, and these rural towns where teachers are making like $30,000 a year. You know, they're not making enough money, they're understaffed, and the children just aren't getting the right resources and educational needs that, you know, that they really have. And, you know, we can start to work around that. I was speaking with a lady yesterday who works in the school district in Pine Bluff, and we were talking about how maybe we can do something where, you know, we will split the educational taxes evenly throughout the entire state. That way, these rural schools aren't suffering quite as bad, you know, and that really needs to be a large focus of, you know, my administration actually, is taking control of the education in Arkansas. You know, we really have to start making sure that all of our children, our future, have the resources that they need to be successful.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for stopping here. You're welcome to stay or you can...
Yeah, you can chill here. You can play on your iPad. It's up to you.
Cool. So, let me ask you a very important question. First of all, the importance of voting, and then why should people vote for you?
So
you can talk to them or me. Or...
voting is so important. I believe after the 2016 elections, a lot of people finally started to realize how important their voice is. And we really need to, make sure we're registered. You can check online to make sure whether or not you're registered to vote. You can even register online now. You don't have to go to the DMV. You don't have to go anywhere to register. You can just do it from your phone. So everyone needs to make sure they're registered to vote. And
why vote for you?
And why vote for me? That's a really important question at this point. There are a few key issues on my platform that are unique to my candidacy. I'm the only candidate that supports Medicare for all, and Medicare for all is so important. A lot of people don't think about it from both sides, the personal and the business aspect of Medicare for all. So, as a working class individual, we suffer the most from our current health debacle that Americans are facing. Do you know what the number one cause for bankruptcy in America is? Medical debt. Number one cause for bankruptcy in America is medical debt. And you know what's really sad about that? 70% of those people have medical insurance. They're paying their premiums, they're paying their co-pays, and they're still losing everything financially because of this debt. It's really important that we get Medicare for all passed and that we make sure that our representatives support Medicare for all at this point. Now, the way that it works is there will be a new tax, and a lot of people get scared right there. Just saying that right now, all that's going to be in the newspaper headline is new health tax. But what they don't talk about is that's going to replace insurance premiums, co-pays, deductibles, and prescription drug costs. So last year, my wife and I, we paid $640 a month to Cigna for our health insurance, and we had a $3,500 deductible. So we had to give Cigna $11,000 before our health insurance would help our family. I mean, how does that make sense? So now with that new health tax, which would be around $2,500, we wouldn't have to pay that $11,000. That would save our family, a regular average family, around $8,000 a year. Now, on top of that, if we were paying $840 a month for our health insurance, our business that we work for, they match that 100%. So Cigna's actually getting $640 plus $640. Cigna's getting around $1,300 a month for our family's medical insurance. Now, when you think about it that way, how much money will these corporations and small businesses save not having to pay the insurance cost? I work for J.B. Hunt, and we have over 5,000 employees. So if you think about that, they would save millions of dollars.
We have 25,000.
25,000 employees are at our corporate headquarters. We have around 5,000. So 25,000 people that are getting health insurance that J.B. Hunt is having to match 100%. They would save so much money. These families would save so much money. But the reason that we have such a hard time pushing this is because these candidates, our representatives, they're taking huge sums of money from the insurance company, from pharmaceutical companies. Cigna profited $292 million last year, while Americans died because they couldn't afford their insulin. The top 5 pharmaceutical industries, the top 5 companies made $69 billion in profit last year.
Well, as I can tell, you're very passionate.
I'm very passionate about
the subject, so
yeah.
that's a good thing because we're doing help in that area. So people should vote for you because
Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all. I am the only candidate that supports the federal decriminalization of cannabis and marijuana. On top of supporting federal decriminalization, I do support 100% expunging nonviolent possession of paraphernalia charges, because there's so many Americans who've had their lives ruined because maybe they were a kid and had a little bit of pot, and now that's going to follow them forever. Maybe the future employer won't hire them. Maybe it'll affect benefits later on. There's so many issues that come across from these nonviolent possession charges. We can empty a lot of our jail cells. Some of our representatives think that we need to be building 4 new prisons and quadruple the amount of Arkansans in prison. I think that's the exact opposite of what we need to be doing. We need to be emptying our prisons, rehabilitating people, and not just cashing out on them sitting in cages all day. And so, Medicare for all, decriminalization of cannabis, I'm the only candidate supporting those two things, which those two things are very important to a lot of people around America, especially with Medicare for All polling at 70% right now, and having Arkansans voted 67% in 2016 to legalize medicinal cannabis. So it's a really large amount of voters right there. A lot of people that care about these two subjects.
So you guys, if you care about those subjects, this is your candidate. Now, when it comes to running, are you running as independent or part of the party?
So I'm running as an independent. I very firmly believe that a political representative should answer to constituents and not to a political party. There are many benefits towards being an independent. I'm trying to do something different for Arkansans. I'm actually the first Senate candidate ever to offer a true direct democracy to constituents. I want Arkansans to be able to vote on legislation before I vote on it, so I can cast my vote in their name, which is
that's very innovative.
Yeah, and I think with technology and the way that we are, 46% of Arkansans have a degree now. We're educated. When the Constitution was written and we became a representative republic back in 1776, times were a lot different back then. Less than 1% of the population had a college education. Less than 5% of the population had a high school education. Of course, people might not be able to understand at the time what would be best for them. But I think the way we are now, with the freedom of information that we have, the education that we have, we can make a decision whether or not something's going to be good or bad for our families. And I think that it's time people should be able to vote before someone casts a vote in their name.
And it'll help you to make the decision that people want, because you represent us.
Yeah.
Your clients.
True representation. It's very innovative, but I think that's what we really need. When we have representatives that are voting to cut Medicaid, when 67% of children born in Arkansas are on Medicaid, it doesn't make sense. That's not representation, and those are the kind of things that I want to fix.
So how can people find you and follow you and support you?
So I am on Facebook and Twitter, Dan Witt Congress, DANWHIT Congress. You can find me on Facebook with that handle or Twitter. I do have a website. It is replacetomcotton.com. You can see my platform on there, my policy stance. It's a great website, and it explains how important family values are to me. And I suggest everyone checking out that website.
Well, thank you so much. I could listen to you for hours.
I could talk for hours. I'm very passionate.
Yeah, and that's why I like you. You're very passionate about important issues. You have a lot of work in front of you. I really commend you for trying this. It's a lot of work to campaign, but then once you win, if you win, may the best one win, everybody, your work actually starts after. And so I really commend you for making this choice to run. You are incredible and very nice and kind, and I love your family.
Well, thank you very
and I hope
much.
this interview helps you in some way to get your message across. You guys support Mr. Daniel Whitfield and go on his website and share his work. And if you ever want to volunteer, I'm sure you'll need a lot of help in that area.
So actually, real quick, as an independent, I won't be automatically on the ballot. That's one of the benefits of being part of the two-party system gives. I will need 10,000 signatures, and these signatures will be collected all throughout the state. I've got volunteers from Jonesboro to Conway to Gravette to Fayetteville, Little Rock, all over the place, but I'm going to need a lot of volunteers to help me get signatures. I can start January 1st, so once I start on January 1st, I'll have a 90-day window to get 10,000 signatures. Now, I'm going to expect to get half of them thrown out, so really we need like 15,000 signatures.
Why would they throw out signatures? Is it like certain requirements?
So basically, to get a signature, it has to be a registered voter. It has to be confirmable. So if the last digit of their phone number is a 0, but it looks like an 8, then they'll count that signature out. If they can't read the name legibly, they'll count the signature out. If one letter or one number in the address is off, they'll count the signature out.
So you guys make sure you put the right
yes,
name.
very important. So yeah, I'll need a lot of help collecting signatures. Anyone who can help, that would be really wonderful. We'd appreciate that.
for your time. Thank you for your time. You've been wonderful, and thank you to your family that they are in this with you on this journey. And we want to wish you best of luck. And I know that whether you win or not, you are a very passionate, active citizen, and I know you're going to make a change. And I believe in you. And again, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.